We have folks here in the room. We've got people online. So we're excited to do that and make it available to as many people as possible. If you're having troubles online, please pop a question or your issues in the chat, and we have Emily, who's one of the technicians in my lab, helping out with that, monitoring the chat. But yeah, so I think we're all ready to go here. I was driving in this morning and on NPR, they mentioned that today is exactly 3 years since the disaster declaration related to COVID. When we made a very quick decision and turnaround to change what was supposed to be an in-person network meeting into virtual in less than 2 weeks. So that brought back a few memories, but it's great to be back in person, and we hope to continue these in-person meetings at least annually into the future. The meeting today is being hosted here at the Smithsonian Environmental Research Center, where the ACT network is based, and the database manager, Kim Ritchie, is based, as well as myself. So I wanted to open with just a couple of slides about CERC. If I can get this to work here. So the Smithsonian institution, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with, has something like 20 museums, the National Zoo, but it also has 9 research centers, and we're one of those research centers. And this center, which we call CERC, is the one that it's really focused on ecological and environmental science research. And a lot of our researchers focus on interactions across the land to sea interface. The CERC was started as a property that was a former dairy farm that was donated to Smithsonian over 50 years ago, and has grown into about 2,650 acre research center with a lot of terrestrial research, a lot of work on marshes and biogeochemistry and things like that. And then work also in the estuary and ocean, both here on our property and across the world. The facilities here range from a lot of outdoor research facilities, experimental forests, experimental wetlands. We're about to build an experimental oyster reef restoration next year, which I'm really excited about. Nearby, we have a LEED Platinum Environmental Center, the Mac Mathias Laboratory, which is named after Senator Mac Mathias, who, among many other things, is well known for being one of the instigators of the Chesapeake Bay program. So we have very strong ties historically to Chesapeake Bay research here. CERC's campus is also home to the Chesapeake Research Consortium, which is funding our lunches if you're here in person. So many thanks to them. And research here at CERC sort of comes from 2 perspectives, I guess, of the land-sea interface. We have about half of our research labs are focusing on things going on land, forest, agriculture, wetlands, many other things like that, thinking about how those things propagate out to the water and the bay and the ocean. And about the other half of our labs are focused on estuarine and marine systems, thinking about influence of the land on those systems and various other things. So I'll stop there, but just wanted to give sort of a quick overview of the flavor of our site here. And for the people who are in person, there will be opportunities, especially if you're here for all 3 days, to get to see some of the different parts of our site. Days 2 and 3 are going to be in the Mathias Laboratory, which is just across over there. It's the big one, you won't miss it. And then the social today is going to be in our Reed Education Center, which is down at our dock facility, which you get to by going back out the entrance road and taking a right at the stop sign and going to the end of the road when it hits the water. So we'll be down by the water for that. And then on Thursday, we'll have an opportunity as well for a tour of our visitor center, which just opened this past summer. It's the oldest building at Smithsonian that's in its original location. Parts of it date back to the 1700s. So we'll get to see a variety of different parts of our campus over the course of the week. Skip ahead. So we have a very busy 3-day agenda here. Today is the primary meeting with science talks, updates about the network, various other presentations from partners, collaborative researchers, and so on. And then we'll be taking coffee break at 10:45. We'll do an hour break for lunch at noon. This afternoon, there'll be the first afternoon session after lunch from 1 to 2 is an opportunity to share network updates. We have a few people listed on the schedule for this, but there's time at the end of that session for anyone else who wants to give a quick update about some exciting result or the new project they have planned for this year, wants to share that with the network. We'll have a couple of brief afternoon coffee breaks around our science talks as well. And then at 5 o'clock, those of us in person, as I mentioned, we'll move down to our Reed Center for a networking social. The next 2 days are a workshop led by Ocean Tracking Network, which we're very thankful that there are several of them here in person to help do that. So that will be, again, both here in person in our Matthias laboratory and virtual as well. I have a few brief network updates. Kim will give most of them, but we're currently operating on FY22 funds for the network coordination and database management. We unfortunately did not receive FY22 funding for RPS to maintain the actual servers and database and website. So we are fingers crossed, hoping nothing breaks, and working very hard to make sure that there's funding for that in FY23. Luckily, we are able to keep the lights on and stuff like that, but we're definitely working on making sure that that part is funded next year. We have a few new members on the steering committee. Keith Dunton, Jeff Kneebone, and Amy Staples graciously agreed to join the steering committee. Toby Curtis is also on that in his role as the ATN coordinator. And if there's a student interested in being a student member, we would love to have one. So I'll just put that call out there in case someone has an interested student. We, in 2022, awarded our first ACT Conference Award, which was funded by private donation and matched by Maricus. We awarded Nick Coleman, who will be presenting later today, some of his master's research that he did with Dave Secor at University of Maryland, funded him to go to the National AFS meeting. We are running that competition again. The intent of these awards is to fund undergraduate or graduate students to attend conferences, to present research, or if they are very interested in telemetry work but don't have anything to present yet, that's okay too. And we're really trying to focus on students who are involved in the ACT network and students who are from underrepresented groups and STEM. We're trying to increase that support as well. So if there's anyone who wants to make a donation to that, please contact me and I can put you in touch with Maricus to do that. And then we also have a silent auction going today. There are some items in the back of the room, t-shirts, koozies, things like that, that people in person can bid on. But we also have an online and in-person hybrid auction for a VR2TX acoustic receiver. Bidding for that starts at $100. And Emily's going to be updating the chat so that people who are online know what that current bid stands at. And all of the silent auction items will close the bidding 10 minutes after the last talk ends. So when the last talk ends, I'll announce a time, and that'll be your final time to put in your bids for the auction. So we'll conclude that before we leave this room and head down to the social. I have just a couple of other brief housekeeping notes before I turn this over to our other introductory speakers. If you're here in the room, the Wi-Fi password is up on the wall. That's for SI internal, I think it's called. Please be careful around our construction sites. We have at least 3 different construction projects going on here right now. There's trash and recycling bins in the room here. For our plastic and glass and aluminum recycling, we only can recycle cans and bottles, not other types of plastics and things. We did a big audit a year or 2 ago, and that's the most efficient thing we can do in our county. They have single stream recycling and burn a lot of it. So we separate out cans and paper and cardboard and plastic bottles and take those to the main Smithsonian recycling program in Washington, and we get a refund that helps pay for sustainability, sustainable lighting, and other things here. So that's the deal with that. Let's see. If you're a speaker, you'll need to repeat questions that come from the audience in the room. So please do that. But you will be able to hear questions from virtual participants. So if you're a virtual participant today and you want to ask a speaker a question, pop that in the chat and let Emily know that you want to ask a question, and she'll be able to call on you and unmute you or help you unmute so that you can ask a question and we'll be able to hear you in the room. Mask wearing is encouraged but not required. It's up to each person, but we're a mask-friendly location here. And I think the last thing that I need to let people know about is that it's safety drill season here at CERC. So it's possible, unlikely but possible, that we might have a fire drill. If we have a fire drill, we will need to proceed outside to a safe location away from the building until we get the all clear. We also might have an active shooter drill. The scenario for that, if it happens, is that there would be an active shooter outside trying to gain entrance to buildings. So we need to be away from windows or doors where people can look in and see you. So in the event of that, we have an array of closets over here. There's the good time to use the restroom. We will find somewhere, the corner where you can't be seen until we get the all clear for that. Yeah, so that's the end of my announcements. And with that, I will turn it over to Gerhard Kuska to give a brief welcome from Maracus.
Thank you, Matt. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, you sound good.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Matt, and thanks, Kim, for your leadership, not just in putting on this event, but in managing, maintaining, and growing our important network here in the mid and northern mid-Atlantic. I'm sorry that my colleague Mary Ford could not be here. She had to spontaneously address a medical issue and asked me to be here. I have been here in past years, but as we continue to evolve and stay lean, we find ourselves more and more split and try to divide and conquer. So I have been spending a lot of time on national level issues and on looking for new funding vehicles, which would also be of interest to our MATOS ACT partnership. I'm really pleased that we're getting together, and I want to thank you all for taking the time to get together. This work becomes increasingly important, and to the extent that we can continue to demonstrate its applications to the real world problems that are being faced as concepts like the blue economy, the new blue economy, coastal resilience, climate resilience, all these topics that sometimes are defined, redefined, and drive funding decisions at the state and national level. The extent that we can tie ourselves to these or define how we contribute to these increases our chances of getting funding. Unfortunately, we had some challenges in the past years. It's no surprise that some of the foreign policy things happening in Eastern Europe and elsewhere caused changes in our budget. that otherwise would have allowed us to not just maintain previous funding streams, but increase them. That had a negative impact on our budgets in the past year or so. We're hopeful that some of the new funding streams will allow for a return, if not an expansion, on some of the work that's being done. I will say we have been working not just regionally, but nationally on these issues with the agencies, with Congress, and we're hopeful that some of the upcoming funding opportunities through things like the Inflation Reduction Act will allow for either competitive or non-competitive opportunities for us to grow our portfolio in the areas that we're working. We've released recently a new version of Maricus Oceans Map, the flagship portal that hosts that provides new tools and greater flexibility, a mobile-friendly platform, and tools that not just the model data comparisons that you may be used to, but also things like traffic light tools to deal with upper and lower boundaries, data boundaries, so you can compare multivariate tools. And if anyone would like a demo or has an interest, please just let us know, either Matt, Kim, or Mary, or myself, and we'll have that arranged for you. I also am interested in hearing, as you work with your data and you think about how we might, create new tools or opportunities for you to look at your data and as part of what we do in Oceans Map. I understand we continue to address and work on issues we have on keeping data confidential for a certain period of time, but we also want to ensure that those that are working with their data have access and ability to the greatest exposure to tools that we already have in other places. So as you try to compare and as we try to grow our participation in things like the Marine Biodiversity Observation Network, or just in working with biology, as things like offshore wind continue to develop, and there are needs for not just understanding what's there, but models and predictions and new data sources that could be funded through outside sources. It's important to understand your interests, where you see gaps, and where you think we might be able to push for expanded participation by others, including funding from outside to fill some of these gaps. So with that, I wish everyone a great set of meetings. Thank you again for your time, and we're looking forward to an exciting year in 23. And I hope that this time next year we'll have more and better news on the road ahead. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Gerhard. Our next quick update is from Toby Curtis, who's the acting coordinator of the U.S. Animal Telemetry Network.
All right, thanks, Matt. Thanks, everybody. You getting me okay on audio?
Yes, you sound good.
All right, great. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. My best to everybody there. As Matt mentioned, I'm sort of the acting ATN coordinator. Those of you that know me know that I work in NOAA Fisheries in the Atlantic Highly Migratory Species Management Division, based in Gloucester, Massachusetts. But as Bill retired, there's an opportunity to do a one-year detail. So I'm about a little more than halfway through a one-year detail as ATN coordinator. So I've been doing a lot, working behind the scenes with Meg McKinsey, Gabrielle Canonico, in the IUS program office, coordinating quite a bit with the regional associations, and just trying to keep things moving forward with ATN, engaging with all the the regional nodes, And appreciate all the effort that that ACT contributes to our sort of national acoustic telemetry infrastructure. So a lot going on behind the scenes to to engage other regions to sort of try to improve our sort of acoustic telemetry backbone. As Gerhard mentioned, that there's some emerging opportunities, and so we're right in the middle of all those discussions, trying to leverage some new opportunities for more resources and more infrastructure to support everything that we're all doing. That's really high level what's going on. The word will be getting out, I'm sure, at some point soon, as soon as we have word on what the sort of long-term plan is for ATN and coordination. In the meantime, please continue to reach out to Meg McKinsey or myself. We're happy to help with any questions. Also OTN is very much in the mix on what's going on, so we appreciate their support and as well. That's all I've got. So, just thanks again for the opportunity to be here. I'm excited to continue to learn from you all. You guys are the experts, and reach out if there's anything that we can do to to help move your projects along. Thanks a lot, Matt.
Thanks, Toby. So next we have Kim Ritchie, our ACT Network data manager, with some more updates on the status of the network.
Okay. David, if you want to ask your question, you can. You can unmute yourself.
Sure. Hi, Toby. Thanks for the brief presentation. In the Mid-Atlantic region, we currently have a really big problem, or big opportunity, I should say, to develop regional networks of telemetry arrays that are being set out in offshore wind project areas. ROSA is just taking kind of steps in this way, but it's hard to get ahead of this. And I would think this would be a very big role for ATN, and I wonder what activities were happening along those lines. Thanks.
Yeah, sure, Dave. Thanks. Yeah, we're very much aware of the challenges and issues in my sort of day job with NOAA Fisheries. I'm the HMS point of contact for offshore wind. So I've been kind of working in the space for a while. We're engaging with ROSA, RWSC, the regional associations, as well as a number of PIs, yeah, and BOEM and NOAA Fisheries are kind of the big players, and we're definitely trying to leverage ATN as a potential solution to some of these acoustic telemetry data coordination challenges. So we're definitely in the mix, and hopefully we'll have some more tangible progress to share at the next meeting. So happy to discuss it more more detail with you offline at some point.
Thanks, Dave and Toby. All right, I just have a few updates about numbers, receivers, tags, all that good stuff. So this is what our current map of active receivers looks like. You can see we've got really good coverage all the way up from the Gulf of Maine down to the North Carolina bays. I feel like, as far as the database goes, we've got pretty good, like all of our current data is pretty accurate and active. Now it's a good time to start working on kind of getting those historical data sets in. So if you've had receivers that you had deployed in 2005, and if you load any of that data into the database, they'll still get matched with old tags that are in the database. And that happens every time we have a data push, no matter if it's old data, new data, current data, it always gets matched, no matter how old it is. So that's kind of continuing our growth and getting bigger and getting some of the historical data sets in, just so that, you can have, even if you've done your analyses already, you might be able to rework it with some of your current work. So as that map kind of showed, we've got 690 active receivers in the water currently, or at least have been, had hands-on in the last year or two. So 1,605 total stations. In 2022, we had 5 glider missions, but there's a couple more that'll be coming in on this next data push that we're also out moving around in 2022. Our tag detections, we obviously match 98% with our own tags, but 1% of those other matches is with FACT Network, so our sister network to the south, and then just about 0.5% for OTN in our north. So we're kind of the corridor of everyone moving past us. We've got 116 projects. Probably 110 of those are all still active projects. We have a few that are like older and not really current. I know we have some that go back to early 2000s. 168 researchers across 85 institutions. And we've got almost 3,000 active tags currently swimming around in the water, but almost 7,000 that we have in there historically. And that's across 58 different species. So those kind of top few are obviously sturgeon, striped bass, which most of you work with or get on your receivers. And then sharks and rays make up a good portion of the rest of those. Most of you have kind of seen this before, but this is our tag detection. So this is from the data pushes that come out every couple months. So matched are the ones that we know tag numbers for, all that information. Unmatched are the tag numbers that don't have any information associated with them yet, or could be false detections. So this last data push, we had 16.2 million match detections. So that was a pretty big jump for us. And we're slowly starting to decrease the number of unmatched detections as we're getting some more tags in the database. You probably all remember my emails through around Christmas time. So all the project code updates have been done. Thank you, Angela. So you no longer have to see Proj 61 on your data extractions or whatever other random number. You'll now see an actual code and be like, oh, I know what that means. So that should all be coming out in the next data push. So that will be probably all of your stuff will be getting updated because all that's going to change. The next data push for you guys closes this week. So if you have any last minute things to get in, we can work on those on Thursday. And then you should get your extracts maybe in March. And then the next one will be in June. And I'm really going to start, I think, pushing on asking for vendor spec sheets. So help me help you. You know, there's a lot of scripts that we can find typos and find errors, but I don't know what your tag numbers are. So if you upload your spec sheets with your actual tag information, serial numbers, ID codes, then I can use those to cross-reference to make sure that those typos aren't happening. So it'll just be more flawless. And then 5 years from now, you don't have to say, oh, I think there's a typo. That tag's actually 13, not 14. So that will help us all. And lastly, don't forget, we do have a Twitter account. I know I'm not always on there, but hopefully I will be more active. So tag us, act telemetry, send updates. We post job openings, recent publications. I'd love to share your research with your network members. Send me photos. I can use those to update the website. I can use those for talks that we've done instead of using the same old circ photos that I've always used. So yeah, don't forget we exist. And that is all I have. Most of you know how to reach me at this point.